I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that most people know you from your role as Sissy on Family Affair.
Well, it's a strong limb. That won't break. People do.
Now, of course, that wasn't your first acting job. How did you get started?
Well, I had been singing and dancing since I was a mere tot of 3 years old in Hollywood, California, and I was a Meglin kiddie. And Ethel Meglin, is the one who discovered Shirley Temple. So, of course, all the moms of their little girls thought that their adorable daughters could be Shirley Temple, too. So I studied singing and dancing with Meglins, and then I went out actually on an interview to double a little girl in a movie, and the movie was Night of the Hunter, which was a fabulous movie with Robert Mitchum and Lillian Gish and Shelley Winters, and it was way ahead of its time. It was a black and white movie, and it was Charles Lawton's first picture that he ever directed. But it got such bad reviews that he never directed it again. It got bad reviews because it was so far ahead of its time, and now it is one of the top 100 movies ever made. So anyway, that was an interesting entree, but then the next one was really epic because then I was in the Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston and all the other wonderful actors.
Yeah, and I guess it was probably hard to stand out in that movie.
Well, it was interesting because I was just hired as an extra, and it was during the Exodus scenes, and I was to be in a little wagon. I had a lamb on my lap, just going through with the other hordes of people that were getting ready to leave the city, and all of a sudden I hear this big voice boom, "Don't let that little girl's face get in the camera." And I said, "Who was that? Was that God doing the Ten Commandments?" But actually it wasn't God. It was Cecil B. DeMille, who had spotted me in the hordes and came down from the great big film crane that he was on. And the associate director picked me off the wagon. I went over, I chatted with him, and before you knew it, he had written scenes into the movie for me.
Well, now, how old were you then?
I was just like 7. I was a little girl.
Okay. And
yeah, it starts out in this, if it's on DVD, but they show it every Easter, so it's coming up.
Yeah.
And I start at the top of the stairs, and I come down, and I said, "Grandfather, do you have the pumpkin?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Where's Rebecca?" And then this disembodied arm reaches out and said, "Here's Rebecca," and Rebecca is my doll. So I take the doll, and I go over to the fountain. And then when we are on the papier-mâché mountains, Charlton Heston Moses comes up to me and says, "Are you afraid?" And I said, "No, but Rebecca is." So he lifts. Now, see, the reason that Cecil B. DeMille did that is that the pictures were so grandiose, and he wanted to bring like humanity kind of on a personal level that people could relate. And so he would pick people out, and he picked me, and so I started on my road to filmdom.
Well, going back to Night of the Hunter, now how old were you in that movie?
I was just 6.
6, okay. Were you in any scenes with Robert Mitchum?
Oh, well, yeah. And I did practically all the scenes because the little girl, this was her first and last movie, and she did not have Ethel Meglin's training. And I was much more athletic than she, and so I could run and I could do a lot of things that she couldn't do. So I was her double, basically, and her stand-in. So I had scenes with everybody. And then I had some of my own scenes at the very end with Lillian Gish. But yeah, I did practically all the scenes on the little boat that we were going. I did all the scenes in the hayloft because she couldn't climb up the ladder to be in the hay. Yeah. And then I had hay fever. But so I had lots of scenes with all the people.
Okay. Well, I was wondering because Polly Bergen had said when she made Cape Fear with him that he just scared her to death. And so, of course, it might have been that his character too, I guess, in that particular movie. So,
well,
I just wondered if he
was the crazed preacher with LOVE written on one knuckle and HATE written on the other knuckle.
Yeah.
The very first scene is when he comes crashing down into the cellar, and Billy Chapin, who's playing my brother, and I are cowering in a corner. So he was rather fearsome, but I knew it was all pretend. So I was acting that I was very afraid of him, and he's knocking down jars and everything in shelves and growling, but it was okay. And as a matter of fact, it was fun. However, he did have a reputation, a little bit of drinking on his set. But besides that.
Yeah, I'd heard that too. So, but now, between Ten Commandments and Family Affair, you had several other guest starring roles, and you were even in a show with Brian Keith even before Family Affair, I think. Yes,
I have a new book out, which is called Surviving Sissy, My Family Affair of Life in Hollywood. And it has just been released for pre-order on Amazon. It will be out in September. But a lot of the book concentrates on the threads of life and how so many things are interconnected. And as you say, I did this TV show with Brian Keith when I was, I think, 10, and he had a show called The Crusader, and I played a waif, and he rescues me, which is very interesting because Family Affair, where I played Sissy, is about 3 orphans that Brian Keith, as Uncle Bill, takes under his Uncle Wing and protects us. So that was very interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I did another show in between those times, The Millionaire, not the one with Regis Philbin, but the John Beresford Tipton Millionaire. Yeah. And it was produced by who? John Fedderson, the same one that produced Family Affair.
Oh, okay. Did any one of these parts put you out front as far as getting the role of Sissy, or did you just have just an awesome audition?
I had an interesting audition, but one of the television series I did was Death Valley Days, and I played a young Isadora Duncan, and June Lockhart co-starred with me in this. Now, the thing for TV series, when they think that they're going to have a wonderful series and they're casting children or teenagers, they like to see that they look younger and don't grow too tall. So I was 18 and I was playing a 12-year-old on this particular show. And it was a wonderful part, and I cry and I dance and I do all kinds of things. So it was a wonderful showcase for me. And I do think that helped me get the part on Family Affair, because they could see I could act, and they could see that I looked young. Hey, who could ask for anything more?
Well, and speaking of that, you were supposed to be about 15 when Family Affair started, but you were about 20 then.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm not going to talk any more about age.
Yeah, we won't do any math here.
But yes, I was older than 15 when it began.
Yeah.
And so they love to have people over 18 because we can work longer.
But see, that's good. Now, when you get older, people look at you and say, wow, I didn't, you look so young. So.
And sometimes then you like to start giving your real age, saying, oh, well, she looks pretty good.
Yeah. Kind of goes in reverse there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, once Family Affair gets started, you're kind of in a tough position, because as far as the cast went, because you had Brian Keith and Sebastian Cabot on one end as the adults and the authority figures. And then you had Johnny Whitaker and Anissa Jones there as the little kids that tend to steal the scenes. So you were kind of in the middle, kind of like that middle sibling is, that.
However, I cannot tell you how many autograph shows that I go to, or how much a fan mail, and that I was boys' first crush.
Yeah.
And especially guys that are in their 50s and now getting up into their 60s, just even sometimes when they come up to the autograph and their cheeks get a little rented, I want to let you know you were my first crush. And I said, well, what happened? So I did have a nice position as being really the only woman, young girl in the cast. Yeah. So that gave me a certain niche and a certain cachet.
Yeah, okay, yeah, and I didn't think about it that way. I guess I was thinking, anybody else could have just gotten lost in the middle.
But I did not get lost.
No, you did not.
And I probably, unfortunately had so much tragedy in the show, and and I am like its standard bearer now. And the show was so wonderful, and I took it upon myself to get the DVDs out, and because nobody else was doing it, and I put MPI, which is a wonderful home media company, in touch with Family Affair lawyers, and I was instrumental in getting the deal done, and so got all 5 of those out, and with the bonuses, and also I was able to get all the actors paid through Screen Actors Guild. Everyone that ever appeared in Family Affair, I got them paid when those DVDs came out, because the actors, we were not paid after the 10th rerun back in those days.
Oh, okay. All right. One of the things I remember about that show was that when I was a kid, I wished we had some front doors like you guys did at that apartment, with the doorknobs in the middle of the door instead of just a regular old, I don't know, that's just kind of weird, I guess.
Well, I must tell you, my father was an architect contractor, and he built us a home in California in the 50s, and we had double doors like that. And it was really an architectural kind of item that were on some of the houses, and obviously back in New York. So it felt just like home to me when I came through those doors.
Yeah, that was just kind of an afterthought there. I just thought, wow, that's kind of weird that I would remember that. But
and do you remember the kaleidoscope?
Yes.
Entrance?
Yes, with the gemstones and everything. Yeah.
Do you know why there was a kaleidoscope?
No.
Because we were one of the very first TV shows to be in color, and they did not want people to forget. Okay. And on my book, my new book, that's Surviving Sissy, when I first turned it into the publisher, and I worked with this wonderful Rick Stassy on the design cover, and it was nice. I said, but I want some jewels on it because it reminded me of the kaleidoscope. So I have a band of jewels. That's also on my website. I have a band of jewels on the top of the website.
Okay.
People get that, but that's why they're there.
And it's funny thinking about back then, color being still so new, that nowadays it's just kind of weird to think about. Wow, well, that was because it was in color, and I just got the old Batman show on Blu-ray here for Christmas, and it says, comes on Batman in color. Like that was a big deal back then, and it was, because we still had a black and white TV at that time. So it was a while before I could see those jewels in color. So
yeah, they're very pretty. You'll have to get a set of DVD Family Affairs. Yeah. I'm going to do an autograph show in, it's Smallville. They're turning it into Smallville. It's actually Hutchinson, Kansas, but Smallville was supposed to be where Superman is from. Mm-hmm. And on Batman, Catwoman, who was played by Lee Merriweather. Mm-hmm. So she's going to be there, and I play the voice of Firestar and Angelica Jones on Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I do a lot of voice work. I've done like 5 animated series. But anyway, you just made me think, because you like Batman, that Catwoman's going to be there.
Wow.
So we'll have some fun.
Yeah. Well, back to Family Affair here. What was Brian Keith like to work with?
He was very interesting. An excellent actor, very underrated because he abhorred publicity. He didn't like to get his picture taken. He didn't like all the hoopla that went along with being a star and all that. He just wanted to act. And on set, he loved kids. But if there was an actor that he didn't like, that someone had cast, he wouldn't look at them.
Wow.
He just said, "Oh no, I'm just not going to do it." And if there was a line that he didn't like, he was just going to something like that. He didn't get him because he did that on purpose because he didn't like the line.
Yeah.
He was very interesting. I helped get him a star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood posthumously after he died, and during the series he got divorced, and then when he was doing the movie Krakatoa East of Java, Krakatoa is actually west of Java, but anyway, he met this woman, and 2 babies later, they got married. But anyway, she was at the Star, and I found out she was the same age as me.
Huh.
So, Uncle Bill, perhaps there was another tension going on. Family affair.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Really. A very good actor.
What about Sebastian Cabot?
Sebastian, too. They were so different from one another in their acting approach because Sebastian had a very difficult time learning lines. And he would pour over his lines every weekend, got them letter perfect, and then on set he would have the script person go over the scenes, and he got everything perfect. Brian, on the other hand, would come on set and say, "Oh, okay, what are we doing today? This is the scene. Okay, let's go." But it made for a wonderful dynamic, I think, because they were so different in their approaches and also in the characters that they played.
When I had seen Sebastian Cabot in a Twilight Zone episode, a rerun, of course, after Family Affair was off the air, and I thought, wow, he's not like Mr. French at all. And I don't know if
he was a very good actor. And actually, speaking of Twilight Zones, I did the same person that Carl Amari, who helped get the Family Affair DVDs together with me, also took the original Twilight Zone teleplays and adapted them for radio and for now CDs. I've done about 5 of them, and it's just wonderful the way that one can now listen to them without actually having to see the TV episode itself.
Stacy Keach is the host.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. Yes. And I did an episode, the one about the gambler with Stacy Keach. She played my husband. But I never met him because I did mine in Chicago and he did his in L.A. And never the vocal twain met, so to speak. Sebastian
Cabot, now he was replaced for a few episodes by John Williams, who played his brother there on Family Affair. Now, when I was reading about this, one account said it was because it was due to an injury. Another one says he took a leave of absence to do some other film and TV work, and so I just wondered what.
Well, the truth is, he had to have an operation on his wrist.
Okay.
However, what made it so long is the way that we shot. Don Feddersen had created this way of shooting, of taking a movie star and putting them into a television show. Now, this had really not been done before, just like color, because, a movie star is going to be on that little black box, so that just isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
But he started it with Fred McMurray in My Three Sons, and he offered him that he could work for only 3 months and do a whole season, and not only that, he would get a piece of the show. Now, usually actors never got a piece of the show. Lucille Ball started that, herself to give her ownership of the show instead of the producers and the sponsors.
Yeah.
So that worked so well with that he proposed the same thing to Brian Keith. So Brian, we would shoot all of Brian's scenes, and then he was gone. But that meant we were shooting scenes for maybe 4 different episodes in a day. So when Sebastian hurt his arm, he, would have been out perhaps in the way people regularly shot a thing for maybe 2 weeks. But we had been already shooting like 6 or 7 episodes.
Oh.
He had to be out for all of them. And so
Okay.
Williams is great, though. I loved John.
Okay, well, I was wondering I couldn't remember how they made the transition, because I've seen other shows like Andy Griffith or somebody else may have a cast or something on their arm, and they kind of explain the cast and go on as part of the plot of the show. But I couldn't remember how they made that transition. So
so he was out the whole time. Now, Anissa broke her leg, and it was the same problem. However, she had a stand-in, and so we would put her behind couches, or and then when she had to leave, they would shoot the back of the stand-in, running off.
Uh-huh.
And then there were a couple episodes when that was actually acknowledged that she had a broken leg. But then for the other shows that we had already started and filmed, we used that with a stand-in and hidden behind couches.
Okay. And speaking of stand-ins, I read where you had to do a lot of your close-ups with an assistant director instead of who we thought you might be talking to.
It was so funny because the kids, could only work for 8 hours. And Brian, many times, was already left. Sebastian had a lot of medical problems. So I was the workhorse. I was over 18. I could work a long time. So I would do, the master scenes at the beginning of the day. Then they would save my close-ups for the end. But I would have to do my scenes opposite, who was the guy behind the camera, while the camera was just doing my close-ups.
Uh-huh.
And here you have this John Gaudioso, you know what I'm talking, he's got a cigar hanging out of his mouth. Uh-huh. And I say, Buffy, want to go to the park? Yes, let's go to the park. Took a lot of imagination.
Well, how hard was it to do that show? Now that you talk about the hours and all that stuff.
Well, I have a very good friend who is the associate producer on the show, John Stevens, who had done Gunsmoke and My Three Sons and the Brian Keith Show, and then he produced 2 of his shows, and he has always contended this was the most difficult show he had ever done. And you say, well, why, John? Why was that difficult? Oh, well, if Anissa called up, her mother called up and said she was going to be sick today, and then I'd have to call Sebastian and say, well, Anissa's not going to come in. Well, then I'm not coming in. So it was, some egos that were going on. So he had to kind of weave in between all the different personalities, and that's what made it difficult for him.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
it was a piece of cake for me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, it was just great.
Well, now your 2 young co-stars fell victim to that stereotypical child star trap. Anissa, of course, died from an overdose when she was just 18, and I understand Johnny Whitaker is a recovering addict himself, but he's counseling people now. Were you able to keep in touch with them much after the show went off the air?
Well, yes, and it's really tragic what happens sometimes. Actually, the 50th anniversary of Family Affair will be in 2016, and I have another book that's coming out called Ex-Child Stars, Where Are They Now? And I really chronicle, along with my co-writer, Fred Asher, what happens to these kids and why do they get involved with the drugs and the alcohol, and why can they not make the transition to a successful adult, whether it's going to be in the business or in some other business. Anissa was a particular case in the fact that she started playing Buffy when she was 9 years old, and she was playing a 6-year-old, which was fine. But the show lasted for 5 years. So 5 and 9, can't stand the new math, is 14. So here she is with little short skirts and her hair in pigtails, carrying around her Mrs. Beasley doll at 14. Just at the time when kids are, trying to find their own personality and establish their identity, and she's playing a child. So that had a deleterious effect on her. And when she was offered other parts, she's the one that turned them down. Not that she couldn't get a role. I mean, she was offered the part in The Exorcist. She was done with show business. She didn't want to have any part of it. And then she started getting in with the wrong crowd. Her mom called me up. I remember going to her 18th birthday party, and her mom said, "Oh, Kathy, could you please spend some more time with Anissa? I'm very worried about her." Unfortunately, at the time, I was going back east for 2 months to do a play, and that is when she OD'd. And she was little. She was only 4'10", and she took all these drugs. And unfortunately, the San Diego coroner said it was the largest ingestion of drugs that he had ever recorded in San Diego County. And so that was really tragic. And then Johnny, he comes from a large Mormon family, and they weren't drinking or coffee or, anything. And when the show was over, then, he did Sigmund and the Sea Monster and some Disney movies. Then he got married, and he got a divorce like a year later when his best friend wooed his wife there. So then he started drinking and taking drugs, and his family did an intervention, and as you say, now he's clean and sober, so that's good.
Okay, so his came after he was grown up then.
Right.
Okay.
Well, yeah, he was, I think, 20 when he started taking drugs.
Okay.
It was later.
All right. Because I was thinking, well, maybe that's why you avoided that downfall, I guess, because you were older anyway than them by the time the show was over with. And, of course, I guess a lot of these kids, it depends on their family situation too, because
absolutely. I mean, Johnny's family, they had 8 kids. Do you think that Johnny got everything that he worked for? Well, no. And I escaped because I've never taken drugs. I think I smoked marijuana twice with Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart. Passed out. And so I said, well, this is no good. I live in Northern California, so I'm near Napa, Sonoma, and Mendocino, so I'll have a glass of Chardonnay. But I think it's very important, 1, education, 2, that your family doesn't spend your money.
Yeah.
And, are supportive of what you do. I had a strong family. I had a mom and dad and 2 big brothers and a sister. And I had a very solid foundation. So here I am, as old as I am, still working, still writing books and all of this. And as old as I am, I have a 23-year-old son who is an absolute delight. And
I hear he's following in your footsteps.
Well, he was, but now he is working at a bank, and he's still going to college, so he's going to be more of a financier. So he's going to fund my project.
Okay. Okay. Well, now that we've gotten kind of past the family affair, and you've mentioned some of the things that you've done. You mentioned Spider-Man. You've done voiceovers for cartoons, and when I was reading that, Firestar was never in the comics until after the cartoons, so maybe you helped launch a new character there for some of these fans.
That's right, and we're going to talk about that because Firestar, as you say, was not in that Marvel universe. And then after the show, there were a mini-series of 4 comic books that were Firestar's own. I still want Firestar to have her own show, so we're still talking about that with Stan Lee and Marvel and Disney and all those people.
Well, who knows with all these superheroes coming to TV now?
Yeah. Yeah, so, and I love to do that. I love to do voiceover. I do a lot of audiobooks. I've done about 70 audiobooks. I just recorded one 2 weeks ago. Max Lucado, he has a wonderful ministry, has like 120 million followers. So this was a new book of his called Lucado Treasury of Bedtime Prayers. And it was just a lovely book. Of course, I'm going to do an audiobook of my own book coming out, Surviving Sissy.
Okay.
And so I do a lot of that.
I saw where you had also written some music and lyrics for some of these audiobooks.
Yes, for children's books. We took Beatrix Potter's tales and also Mother Goose and had a chorus of children. Oh, and the most fun that I just had was in January at the Niswonger Theater in Tennessee, in Greenville, Tennessee. And my wonderful friend Jerry Malloy got the Sherman Brothers music for the original production of Tom Sawyer. So he adapted the movie and actually the classic book for River Song, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. And I played Aunt Polly, and I got to sing and dance, and I just had a wonderful time.
Okay, and another parallel there, Johnny Whitaker was, didn't he play Tom Sawyer, or was it Huckleberry Finn?
No, he played Tom Sawyer,
okay,
and I had... and we had gotten, and I had suggested, well, let's get Jeff East to play Muff Potter, who was in the original Tom Sawyer and also played Huckleberry Finn. And he was going to come in, and a week before, he had an operation on his knee, and he couldn't do it. But that would have been a very strong thread, for sure.
Now, not everything has been voice. You've been still out in front of the camera. You've been in several. Ron Howard has helped put you in some of his movies.
Yes, child actors, we stick together. And then I did Mom, Murder, and Me last year, and then the Lavaganza trilogy, which is an interesting movie that will be out in 2015. Also in 2015 is a movie I did called Executive Ranks, where I play a corporate executive, and Larry Thomas from Seinfeld is in it, and Judy Tenuta, who is just really very funny. It's a real good cast.
You were in this Family Affair remake that they tried here a few years ago too. Just an episode of that, or
just an episode, and what a bomb! It was just awful. Sequels or remakes.
Yeah.
And sequels are better than remakes in my estimation, because the people know the characters, and it just doesn't seem to work. Sequels are nice because then fans and people and new viewers can see what the characters are and what direction they go in. But if you replace the people, it doesn't work. And Tim Curry just did not have the same kind of personality as Sebastian Cabot.
Yeah,
it just didn't work.
Yeah, and I never got around to catching it, so I don't.
Not a big loss, Tim.
Well, that was probably the same reason I don't watch a lot of these remakes, is because they don't. They try to hip it up too much, for the current audience, and then it just ends up not being any good for anybody. Seems like a lot of the times. Well, let's see.
That's why channels like MeTV are doing so well.
Oh, yeah.
Because those are where the classic shows are shown, and people like a little bite of comfort food and quality. So
yeah. When MeTV first came on, I had it on all the time. Well, TV Land was good in the beginning, but then they started showing new stuff, so I kind of got away from TV Land too. But you had mentioned the book you've got coming out here in the fall, Surviving Sissy, A Family Affair of Life in Hollywood. It's described on your website as a tell-all book. Now, does that mean it's one of those dig up the dirt type of books, or?
Absolutely not. I didn't put that out. That's the publicity. I am telling all I know, but it doesn't include, this is a very G-rated book.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I expected.
I respect people's privacy, and I would never make public things that have not been made public to me or that would be offensive to anyone. It wasn't my goal or my mission in my book. Hopefully, the main theme is that we're all connected by some threads, and I show my thread theory about how one thing tightens to another thing, and hopefully it will be a little inspiring as well, and that one just has to persevere no matter what happens.
Yeah. Does it primarily focus on those years you did the show, or is it more of a biography, or?
It's a total biography, but I would say that a little bit more than half is about Family Affair.
Okay. Now we can find it on your website, KathyGarver.com.
It's on Amazon.com right now because it's just up for pre-order.
Okay.
So one can pre-order it, and then we're actually having the launch in about 3 or 4 months, and then it will be on my website to actually purchase.
Okay.
But if one purchases it now, there's a discount.
Okay. I saw where Patty Duke did the foreword for you on it.
Yeah, I've been friends with Patty for a long time, ever since she had the Patty Duke show. And we've just remained friends, and then she was kind enough. And again, my agent, I said, how long do you want this to be? And she says, oh, just 3 or 4 sentences. Because Don Wells had done from Gilligan's Island, had done the foreword to my Family Affair cookbook, and that was like 2.5 pages. But anyway, it's brief, to the point, and heartfelt. Patty's is. Okay.
And I was going to bring up that cookbook because I noticed I had actually gone on Amazon and saw this on pre-order, and I thought, well, maybe it was going to be available through your website, and they had listed it by Kathy Garver and Patty Duke, and I thought, wow, and I didn't know she had written, so that's why I had to dig a little.
That's interesting. I'll have to go see that. Is that on Amazon?
Yeah.
I'll have to check that
out. And I mentioned, well, let's see, we talked about all the different organizations and everything. You've got Family Affairs on DVD now, and I guess it has been for, 3 or 4 years.
It has. They released one season at a time, and then at the end they released all 5 seasons. I think they do that to see how well it does, and it was doing so well then that they planned it out to release a season each year. And now they're all out and on DVD.
Well, that makes it easy for folks like me, because I was back when VHS tapes were, everybody had those. I was out recording all these TV shows that I liked, trying to catch the episodes and all that stuff. And it just makes it a whole lot easier doing that with this DVD.
It does.
stuff.
And these DVDs, I do a bonus feature for each one of the seasons.
Okay. And that's out there on Amazon too.
Right.
So you're
now that is on my website, KathyGarver.com, so people can get it on my website.
And I noticed too, you've got several awards that you can brag about too down through the years. Family Television Awards, Golden Halo Awards, Emerald Awards, Audio Awards for your audio books, and I saw where you had a star on the California Walk of Stars too.
Right, yeah. The Palm Springs Walk of Fame.
Okay.
They have the Stars in the Sidewalk in the Hollywood Walk of Fame because, half of the population in Palm Springs are actors. So Sonny Bono is there, and Frank Sinatra. There are lots of really interesting, Liberace, lots of interesting folk that have stars in the Walk of Fame, and I joined them. Yeah, my last award was for the Southern California Motion Picture Council Lifetime Achievement Award. And my son said, but Mom, you're not dead yet. Thank you, hon.
Well,
yes. So
you want it while you can enjoy
it. And I continue to hopefully get more.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want an Oscar after last night's miserable show, so we can forget about that. I wouldn't even take one from all their political agenda and chest beating.
Yeah.
Give me a break. Is this a political convention we're having, or is this a recognition for entertainment and good movies well made? Obviously, not the second.
Yeah. I don't watch it like I used to. I tuned in last night toward the end so I could see who the best picture was, and I think I just missed John Travolta's little deal with Idina Menzel.
Yeah.
So
that to me was pretty funny, but some of the other things in the show were just reprehensible for their agenda.
Yeah, and
I'm concerned.
They want to honor everybody who had anything to do with it. Seems like, and they keep adding categories, and then when you put in all the people's political speeches whenever they get their awards, it just makes it it's almost as long a day as a Super Bowl is. So
Yeah, I mean, it's 3 hours and 38 minutes was the show last night, and, it certainly didn't merit that.
No.
So, anyway. But
all right.
Appreciate you calling me back.
Well, I appreciate you taking my call.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Great day.
Thanks a lot. You too.
Okay. Bye-bye.